Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. I hope that you are all fine. In American literature, today I will discuss on Birches by Robert Frost. First of all, I am going to introduction the Birches poem. Birches are one of the most widely read nature lyrics of Robert Frost. Originally, the poem was called Swinging Birches. The poem is remarkable for achieving a complex blend of realism, pragmatism, and imagination. From the description of an ordinary incident, it proceeds to convey a profound thought in a simple manner. The poems consist of 59 lines of blank verse, without any stanza breaks, depicting the themes of the limits imposed on man by the real world for his existence with all its hardship and still allowing for the world of fantasy. Next explanation करेंगे. पोइम ऑलरेडी मैं आप लोगों के साथ बेटा डिस्कस कर चुकी हूँ इन प्रीवियस लेसन. लाइन 1 to 5 explanation. The poem begins with an image of birches bent left and right. Seeing the birches bending to the left and right beyond the rows of irregularly standing trees, the speaker turned by some boys swinging on them. At the same time, he is aware of the fact that swinging does not bend them enough to cause permanent damage as the ice storm do. Next line 6 to 12 explanation. These lines are beautiful description of birches tree with their branches frozen and encrusted with ice in the morning after an ice storm. The birches swing up and down as the breeze rises and the ice on them appears to be shining. As the sun grows warmer, the ice is shaken down. The breaking ice has been compared to shattering crystal and glass that falls like and the avalanche because of their transparency and their sharpness. Next beta lines 13 to 20. Explanation. The speaker imagines the ice crystals scattered around the tree as the inner doom of heavens had fallen. This alludes to Shelley's doom of many-colored glass to suggest the shattering of the ideal into everyday reality. The birches are bent down under the weight of ice and show until they reach the dried up fronds and shrubs on the ground which suggest suffering. The speaker's imagination rises and he compares the bowed birches to girls on all fours, their hairs hanging in front of them as if they are drying hairs in the sun. Next beta lines 21 to 27. In these lines, the reality dawns on the speaker that ice storm the cause of the birches condition, but the self-consciously breaks from his realistic but metaphorical fantasized degradations and prefers to have some boys bend the birches. He imagines that young boys live too far from town to learn baseball, so he has devised a game for himself. A game more interesting than learning baseball. The boys singing symbolize maintaining life's difficult and precarious balances. Line between 28 to 35. Explanation. These lines bring out the theme of conquest of nature. The boy sees his father Birches as object to be conquered and sets out to accomplish the task. There he writes them down over and over again until he takes stiffness out of them. He maintains perfect balance even when he reaches the top and comes to the ground with the same easy hand movement. The boy's conquest of the tree mirrors the victory of poet imagination over the real world. His poetic imagination surfaces the real reason behind the banned birches. Line beta 35 to 40. Explanation. These lines continue describing the boy's technique for climbing and bending the trees. The boy performs his action as carefully as someone who takes extra care to fill a cup up to the brim and even above the brim. This suggests a method of reaching beyond the rear. After reaching the top, he flings himself outward, stretching his feet and kicking his way down through the air to the ground. It refers to the careful construction involved in completing a literary task, or to a sense of triumph felt by the poet on establishing his world of imagination over the realistic world. Next better lines are 41 to 47 explanation. The third part of them begins with a more personal and philosophical tone. The speaker claims to have been such a youthful swinger of birches in his childhood. He nostalgically desires to go back to those days again. This longing for the simpler days of childhood stand in sharp contrast with the pain of the adult world, which is sharp contrast with the pain of adult world, which is described as a pathless wood. The pathless wood is smiles, which compares lives to a forest with no clearly marked path where one may easily lose one's way. When the speaker is troubled by the worries of the earth and tired of considerations, and when life becomes unbearably painfully, when some twinge pinches his eyes, and the cobwebs burn and tackle his face, he likes to find an escape from drudgeries for some time. The poet's sharp contrast between the real and the imaginary worlds make us realize the importance of his momentary escape from the everyday den and bustle. The pathless wood and cobwebs are symbolic of confusion and the bafflement that men suffer. Next written lines 48 to 53. The speaker makes it clear that his escapist mood is dominated because of excitation of life. However, he only wants to get away from earth for a while, but not permanently. He wants to come back to the earth because he believes that the earth is the right place for love. He expresses his love and attachment for the real world through its inhabitants, complexities of all kinds. He recognizes the fact that there is no better place than the real world. The imaginary world appears more appealing because of existence of the real world. Lines beta 54 to 59 explanation. In concluding lines, the speaker wishes to climb a birch tree to go towards heaven. He would enjoy his momentary bliss till the tree is unable to bear his weight anymore and sets him down again. He wants to experience the thrill and adventure of rising up, as well as the satisfaction of coming back to earth. It suggests that climbing a tree is an opportunity to get away from the earth. One could do worse than is a swinger of birches means that one could certainly do worse by not trying to make an attempt. On the other hand, without limits, there can be no love or any other human emotion. There should be a fine balance between his work on earth and spiritual aspirations. इसके साथ बेटा हमारी एक्सप्लेनेशन हो गया कंप्लीट. नेक्स्ट बेटा हम लोग देखेंगे थीम्स ऑफ बर्चेस बाय रॉबर्ट फ्रॉस्ट. फर्स्ट बेटे थीम्स है इमेजिनेशन वर्सेस द रियल वर्ल्ड. The relationship between the real and the imaginary world is of pivotal concern in Birches. The poem brings over the precarious balance between the real and imagination. Next beta theme and the needs for limits. In Birches, one finds people or forces imposing limits. Both boy and the ice storm bend the birches. Gravity pulls the speaker back down to earth as they climb towards heaven. Next with a harsh reality of life. Frost has portrayed the world of harsh reality that compels one to seek retreat by the virtue of his romantic fancy. He wishes to escape the drudgeries of life. नेक्स्ट बेटा मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट थीम है रॉबर्ट फ्रॉस्ट की इन बर्चेस में नेचर इज एन इम्पॉर्टेंट सब्जेक्ट इन फ्रॉस्ट पोइट्री ही सीम्स टू हैव अ क्लोज affinity with nature and his poems are meditative. In Birches, Frost has presented different appearances of birches. He has used the birches to compare his childhood days led in the closeness to nature. आई होप सो कि आप लोगों को बेटा समझ आ गई होगी. अपना बहुत सारा ख्याल रखिएगा. अल्लाह हाफिज़.